All right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app in your home smart speaker. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, and there's Jonas Siegel of The Athletic in here this afternoon.
What's up, Jonas?
What's up,
How we
guys?
doing, Jonas?
So the last time I talked to you guys was before I was leaving for Game 3.
How did your
at the
luggage
airport?
go?
Great.
Yeah.
I did a sneaky move.
Oh, yeah?
I got it on.
Perfect.
But you guys were feeling great.
Yes.
Now I wonder, how are you feeling?
Well, not as great.
him.
Not as great. I can tell you, man, I'm having flashbacks to Friday night because when the Leafs are up 2-0, when any team is up 2-0 and in the driver's seat of a series, especially an important one, a second round against a great opponent, it's this sense of calm that just feels so foreign, right? Like all of a sudden you're like, I'm jacked up for the game. And then Nye scores 23 seconds in and you're like, oh, this is actually like the parting of the seas. Like the Leafs are here, they're here to play. Then it's 2-0, and then at one point it's 3-1. And then I thought they had a great third period on Friday night, and Riley scores, and they persevere, and they get to overtime. And, of course, Brad Marchand, of all people, find the luckiest of bounces to end it. And even with that being the case, I found the viewing experience going into Sunday, from a Leaf perspective, very comforting. All good. You went down to Florida for a split. You're in a good spot. I think it would be a different feeling today if those two games reversed. In other words, if Florida played the way they played in Game 4, but did so in Game 3, and then the Leafs bounced back with a great Game 4, and it's a coin flip, and you're like, okay, they got over it. I think what has been difficult for Leaf fans is that you got a 2-day break, and the last time you saw it, it was a classic Florida Panther game, and the Leafs didn't get their split, and now the first 4 games are largely irrelevant, and it's a best 2 out of 3, and this is when it really starts. And now all the stats are showing up of Mitch Marner and how many points he gets in games 5 through 7 compared to 1 through 4.
He's got it written on his
and Jonas has got it tattooed on his forehead here in the studio. And Matthews in big games. And are they going to change up the lines? And what's going on with Stolarz? So it's a very different move. long story short, it's a different approach today than it was on Friday.
Different vibe, yeah.
Before you're flying down there.
Different vibe. And, actually, I never thought of it that way. Had you flipped the games, then it's like, okay, that game is an overtime. It's a coin flip. The thing is outside of the last game, like there's been some weird goals this playoffs. Like the Marchand overtime, the Riley goal was lucky. I mean, he blockers it hits knee. There's just so many weird goals this playoffs. And I think there's a lot of weird storylines these playoffs. The Draisaitl scores on himself with 0.4. We talked about it yesterday, Stuart Skinner chasing the puck. And, there's just been some weird things. But how, if you want to have perspective about it, I think if you started, if we said, what is this series going to look like? I always believed it was going to be long. Maybe I'm in the minority. I always thought it was going to be 6 or 7 games.
everybody thought that. I think everybody thought that.
So what it is like, okay, how you arrive at it, that is a little bit annoying for some people, but you could argue that maybe a bounce or something didn't go. Like, I thought Bobrovsky was terrible for Game 1. He gave up 3 bad goals. Mm-hmm. I thought he gave up 1 bad goal in Game 2, but it was the Marner game-winning goal, which, seeing eye shot, good for Mitch, perfect shot. But, Bobrovsky, his last 2 games have been better, and his last game was better. So if you're a Leafs fan, you're concerned about, well, is this guy getting going? And has Florida found their game? Mm-hmm. Now, conversely, the Leafs have an opportunity to find their game on home ice. So I don't think there's a calm. There will never be a calm about us and the fan base, but doesn't mean that team can't be calm.
Do you get the impression they're calm? You've been around them a lot.
I'm trying to remember what I wrote down in my notes this morning. Today, they felt more upbeat. Like, it felt like actually at the morning skate, like, you can make whatever you want of these things. You're like, oh, they were tight. It was quiet at the morning. But like the morning skate before Game 4, I remember it felt quiet. And I was like, are they tightening up? But then like they're a goal away most of that game. Like they could have actually won that game. I struggle with this. Well, if you look ahead and they were 2-2 after 4 games, this is where they should be. But it's like, it was 2-0. That Game 3, like that's the one, if they lose the series, you'll look back on, you're like, man,
Yes.
3-1 lead, had real chances in overtime to win that game, and it's like that game is right there for you.
Yeah.
And you win that game and the series is over, and it's
Yep. That
now
yes.
we find out, like you guys have been talking about, we've been talking about it. Oh, this team's different, and I think there's a degree of truth to that. I think the resilience that they've shown in a lot of these spots has felt different, but now you get to prove it. Like if you are actually different, the game tomorrow is when you show it.
Absolutely, and that is I think where it's uncharted territory for Leaf fans because they're literally going to play more games than they have in 20 years in the playoffs.
That's crazy.
Like literally, we haven't seen a game 6 in the second round.
The second round
Since 2020,
Carolina does it every
2004. Yeah, exactly. A lot of teams do
Just
it
like
every
Carolina,
year.
I thought I read a stat like Rod Brindamore, like 8 years in a row.
They always get out of the
second
first round.
Like,
They're always in the second
which
round.
is very weird. But you're right; it's foreign for certain organizations, and this one is foreign for this group.
Been over 20 years
Right.
since they've been in a situation where you're extending the second round. So from that standpoint, I think a lot of Leaf fans are just they're finding their footing here, and yet I think the point you make is an important one. If they have it, they didn't lose it in Florida over the course of 3 days. Like if you have the makings of a championship team or a team that is capable of beating anybody in a best 4 to 7, and this is as tough as it gets, doesn't guarantee you win the next round or the round after that, but beating Florida is as tough as it gets in the National Hockey League. If you had the makings of doing that, that didn't get lost flying down to Florida or flying back to Toronto. It is still available to you, and you're going to have to prove it. And it was always going to be difficult. And any great playoff run has these ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And let's face it, moments of uber confidence, which I think a lot of people had going into Game 3, and moments of doubt that I think maybe people have going into Game 5. But it's on the team to not be swayed by any of that, the players to not be swayed by any of that, and to go out there and continue to prove it's always been there, and it's just a matter of going out there and picking up these wins. And it's the best 2 out of 3, and you got home ice, right? Like that's a very good opportunity. Now, again, they've been in situations where they played deep into series before. Again, prior to this year, outside of that Florida series 2 years ago, they always go 7. Like they always seemingly go 6 or 7. Even the first year of the Matthews-Marner era, they pushed Washington to 6.
Yeah, it went 6.
And then the year after it was 7, and then it was 7, and then Columbus, it was 5 in the bubble, and it was 7 against Montreal. Like they always go deep in these series. They've always been relatively comfortable in the first 4 or 5 games in terms of, kind of jockeying for position in the series.
Right.
Where they have to prove that this is different is ultimately in a scenario like this.
Well, and I was talking
against a very good team.
And I think that's right. And I think they haven't figured out that final step yet. And until they do it, like, they're not going to be able to know what that is. And, like, maybe it's, I don't know, someone we don't think of. Maybe, like, what is the most unpredictable thing that could happen tomorrow? Like, Pontus Holmberg scores the game winner? Like, something like that. But, like, they're going to have to find something that they haven't been able to find. Like, whether it's Marner, whether it's Matthews, whether it's someone lower in the lineup.
Right now, the most unpredictable thing is Austin Matthews scoring the winner.
The way things are going.
I don't think that. Come on. He could.
He's got 3 goals in 20 games. Like,
Okay,
I understand
that.
that.
Is true.
Well, you're a numbers guy.
I am like, yeah, of course I am.
So
I can't fight the numbers. I agree.
I expect him to score. But
that's
the
what
thing.
I'm
Like,
thinking.
I'm just saying,
but I expected him to score the other night.
But you just said the most unexpected thing. Right now,
That's not, though, right? I know what you're saying.
He's
but
setting the table that's now. I expect him to score tomorrow or
Yes.
another.
I thought he would the other night. The game before that,
But-
the
but
game
the
before
point
that.
being is-
you can expect all you want.
You're right. The most unsuspecting guy would be Bobby McMahon for me right now.
With the
20
way-
goal
yeah, it's-
scorer, and
yeah.
is finding his game still. But when you look at it, we should go, okay, regardless. Let's say it's a 4-3 game tomorrow. You would expect Matthews to have scored in that game, right? You would expect. Now, on the other side, Reinhardt. Reinhardt hasn't found the back
got
of the net,
one goal, yeah.
right? So, I'm sorry, yeah, he does have the 1 goal. Barkov has 1. Matthew Tkachuk has 0. It's stuff like star power usually cancels each other out. So it's like, okay, who's farther
Well,
down
if that's the
line?
case, then I don't know how they win the series.
Well,
Because, like, their bottom 2 lines, I just don't know who's going to score.
I wasn't being a dink when I said that. I was stating the fact that, like, you said the most unsuspecting.
Yeah.
Right now, it just, according to the numbers, it would be Matthew scores the winner. and we go, okay, all is good. Like you go, okay, this guy found it when he needed it, as opposed to, hey, what's going on? And there's articles and going, hey, Matthews, and here's the numbers and all. I'm sure you've written about it.
I literally wrote it the other day. Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, it's not unsuspecting, but it would be a nice bonus right now. Go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, like you just, flippantly said, no one from the bottom six can supply offense. I don't think that's valid or true. I mean,
Is that what I said?
Well, you were.
They have one goal in the series.
No, I understand that.
Can you expect them to score? Could they score? Of course.
Should they score? Yes.
Should I expect them to score? No.
The fourth line for Florida, I believe, has at least one.
Yeah, they
Would you
changed
expect
their whole. They changed their whole.
But
fourth line
who
to
has
score.
it? Gadjevich.
Yeah.
Like all 12 forwards for the Leafs have more offensive ability than that guy. He scored a goal to his credit.
Okay.
But I'm not. The point is, like, I don't. I've noticed this the last couple of days. Well, the bottom six again, they sucked. I don't believe that. I don't think that's true.
It's factual. What is the case that they haven't been effective?
Well, Max Domi, did he score an OT winner in the last round?
That was last round.
Okay, but Jonas, they've played 10 games.
We're in the second round.
But they've played 10 games. Like I understand what you're saying, but they've scored a lot in this round.
They're getting crushed
from their defense.
They're getting crushed when they're on the ice, and they don't score. So what do they do?
Okay, so what would you suggest they do?
I would have changed what they're doing. I would have brought in Robertson. I would have tried to get that Robertson, McMahon, Domi combination that, like, once every 7 games, 10 games, 12 games, had a night, and just hope that they get a night. Because the way they're doing it, who's going to score?
Well, who's coming out for you then? Yarncroke?
So I would have put Camfin as well, and I know that's probably too much for them, but I would have taken out either Yarncroke or Holmberg. And just tried to bet on, like, Robertson, and Domi and Robertson have chemistry. You're playing Holmberg with Domi, who's not, now he's going to score for sure in game 5.
Well, it's funny.
But it's like you're not really giving Max Domi,
we're 12 minutes in and we're arguing about the fourth line.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
I
We're just burying the lead, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Like, anyone claiming the reason there's an issue, there's going to be an issue, is because the bottom six again is absurd when Austin Matthews doesn't score. Or Mitch Marner doesn't score. I'd also argue Max Pacioretty, he has scored now when he's been up technically on the second line. That's a depth guy that didn't start this. He didn't even start in the playoffs. He was their 13th forward.
Right.
And they're getting offense from their defense, a lot of it from their defense, which is something they weren't. So it's not going to be a perfect, like, first line gets 10 goals, second gets 8, third gets. That's not the way anything ever works.
But both things can be true. You can need more from your bottom 2 lines. And your star players also have to come through. Like, they
combination of all of it, sure.
Thing.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's impossible to believe that Max Domi could supply another big goal.
Of course not.
I think he can. And as much as Florida's third line has been very, very good.
They've been the best line in the series, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But what is that?
Team.
Isn't that a shot at the other top lines that they're getting outplayed by them? And the Matthews line went up against them a lot in the last game.
You're right.
And still couldn't break through them.
Yeah, you're right about that.
The other thing, too, is you come back to unsuspecting. It always is. We didn't have who had Simone Benoit.
That is the most
OT winner.
That's a crazy one.
This was the lowest scoring defensive core in the National Hockey League that all of a sudden has found some goals.
Yeah.
Now, again, Chris Tanev, his barely made it to the back of the net, but he found a goal. In the end, it is, the stories write themselves, and sometimes it is, hey, it's an unsuspecting guy. Sometimes it's just, hey, you know what, a top guy, a star player is allowed to have a good game and deliver a win as well. Ask this Rantanen guy who just keeps scoring.
And that would be my stance of, yes, every series it's different. It's a blank canvas.
Right.
But the first player to score in the whole playoffs was Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He scored multiple goals. Benoit has scored an OT winner and set up an OT winner to Max Domi. Tanev has scored. Morgan Riley has scored at a very, very good rate.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, through 10 games, I don't think the depth scoring has been an issue. I don't think it has been.
I think you're right.
Max Pacioretty has contributed goals. Am I holding my breath that Lorentz scores? No, I'm not. That Pontus Holmberg
But you do
does
have to
for you.
delineate between the series, don't you? Like that first round series.
That's valid.
It doesn't matter.
I think it's I think there's validity to that. But again, I think you look at Florida. They've literally flipped over their fourth line, to the point where Maurice was like, I don't like this.
But
So,
again, maybe that's where he's going, is like, if
maybe
that's what I'm saying. Like, let's change something.
But doesn't appear as if he's going to do that.
It doesn't look like it, and you could,
sorry, we talked about it in the first round. Don't change it. They won and what do? It's like a subtle Robertson,
move.
you're out, and Pacioretty's in.
Yep.
And they find, and then Pacioretty finds something. Maybe there is a slight adjustment that gives. Again, it's not going to. You're not messing with the top 9 players. We'll call it, if we believe that they're cemented in stone. But is there adjustment that could maybe give a different look?
Yes.
I think you see it throughout the league. Again, McDavid and Draisaitl aren't coming out, but it was Kapanen went in for Arvidsson last night.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't
And he
score,
played well.
But he played well. He was physical. He was a big body bigger body that could skate. Same thing. Stetcher, smaller defenseman, goes in for Emberson. Slight adjustments. What you're saying is that it looks like Chief is going to go with the exact same lineup of games 3 and 4.
Yes,
Correct.
he could always change, but he talked today about not really loving the Matthews-Nylander combination. He barely used it, so it's hard to really say you tested it out. That's the move I would have made, just to try to change the look-up, try to get Matthews
Nylander?
Play them together.
Right.
Nylander's been their best player in the playoffs. Try and see if that gets something else, and if it doesn't, go back. Mm-hmm. Because now if the same thing happens in this game and you don't change it, it's then you're not going to change it for game 6, and then you're basically kind of stuck with it, I guess. You can always change.
What are your thoughts? I mean, Craig Berube's not a guy where the lines go into the blender that much during the game. Where you see other coaches, and it's this guy needs an extra shift, this guy finds another shift. John Cooper, same thing. He's moving
Cooper's
guys
it's
around
all the time.
Right. There's crazy. A lot of movement. Greg Berube puts the guys on the ice, and he trusts them to do the job.
I think you got to stay consistent with that, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Like Berube, one of the big benefits of I think what he represents is this calming presence, is breathing confidence into his group, and if he starts flipping things around and pulls a blender out, the players are going to be like, what the hell are you doing? It's 2-2 in the series. Yeah, you haven't done it all year. It's 2-2 in the series. I think it's different. A blender is different from, Robertson, you're going in, and Holmberg's coming out, or whatever it is. Yeah. That's depth, rearranging. I don't like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity.
Right.
Clearly, Berube just does not see the value of anyone but Matthews and Marner playing together. Now, I do wonder if a part of what his thinking is, and I think again, we're getting caught up in the bright lights of Matthews and Marner and all that chatter, which is very worthy of being talked about.
Right.
And we've done it. You've written about it. Everyone's talking about those two guys. But if Knies is playing as well as he is, do you want to upset that apple cart? How much of his philosophy for Berube is what Matthews and Marner are doing is allowing this guy to continue to play the way he's playing? Because I would argue, you said Nylander's been their best player, and I think that's true, but by a small margin on Knies. Very small, in my opinion. And I think you could argue there's been a number of games, including the 2 in Florida, where Knies was better. And I think, again, it's not the best scenario to be in. It can change, and I think for the Leafs' sake, it has to, or at least balance out over the next 2 or 3 games. But I think if you're looking at this, who do I expect, if they win 2 of the next 3, which 2 forwards do I think will have the biggest impact on that?
Nylander
and Knies.
Yeah.
See, I think what you're saying, and I would agree, Knies is a different player. I think Knies is more impactful because he's physical.
Yes.
Nylander gets
that's the game.
But I know, but Nylander gets
15 points.
I'm not disputing. That's not a shot at Willie. Yeah. I'm pumping Knies' tires.
Nylander is a point producer, but there's games where it's not there for him and it's quiet. So he doesn't bring anything else to the table.
Yeah, game 5 against Ottawa, quiet.
So it's quiet because if it's not there for you, or you miss an opportunity or whatever, that's what goal scorers do. When you are a different type of player and you can provide offense, but you also provide physicality, you provide a presence. That's why Knies can be more impactful game in and game out, because he plays the same way. Speed, physicality, and then you add in the offense. Where the offensive guys, particularly we're just talking Nylander. Nylander doesn't run somebody over in the corner. He doesn't, he's not overly physical. He's not. So if his game's not there from a offensive standpoint, you go, geez, he was quiet. He really didn't. So I think that's where you're comparing, going, Nylander's been our best player. Well, you could say, I think Knies has been the more consistent player because he's played the same way every day.
And he kills penalties.
But that, it's just, that's what the star players are wired about. Whereas, other star players through the league, they play a little bit differently. Whether they're more physical, they don't need one shot to score. They maybe need 2. type of thing. That's the way I look at it. When with the 8 teams that are left, the star players, they all play a little bit differently. They're not all, and we'll call it the 3.5, 4 star players for the Leafs. They all kind of play the same. They're very talented, skilled, wide, not overly physical.
Yeah.
Which is fair, but Knies is more consistent when you notice him.
Can I push back on 2 things?
Sure.
I made a promise to my girl I would be nice. I would agree with you guys on
Please
everything.
don't do that.
Why?
Please don't.
And I will
please
try.
Be open and honest.
Push back.
This is
2 things.
a source of honesty around.
So I think you made a really good point on Berube. The question I have with that is, I think you get in this mindset of, well, if I change it, it's going to send a message of panic to the group. But it's also part of the job. Like, you have to adjust when something is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have seen year over year over year, Matthews Marner doesn't work as good in theory in the playoffs as it does in I shouldn't say in theory. It doesn't work the same way in practice in the playoffs as it does in the regular season. And I think they have wedded themselves so much to it without looking at it in this playoffs and in past playoffs.
Right.
There's not really been a year where it's like, man, those guys are like they're Draisaitl and McDavid. It's never happened. And I wonder if playing Marner away from Matthews also gets Marner into more of a shooting mode, because when he plays with Matthews, he is always just looking for Matthews, and rightly so, but he defers. But he needs to score too. He's a 30-goal scorer basically every year. No one ever, it doesn't get talked about a lot.
No, but you're right, yeah.
They're not deep enough for him not to be a threat offensively, and I just wonder if, maybe you overthink this. We have to play Matthews and Marner together. Why?
I do agree with you on one set. I don't think changing the lines here or there sends the word panic out. I do think there is a consistency to it, and it's how you deploy. I would much rather, again, because you're fighting for it all right now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Saving
right,
it.
exactly.
So I'm I can't go, oh, geez, I got to keep Willie at 18 or 19.
Yes.
If you can get him to 22, 23 because you need to find an extra shift and
he did that the other night. He
comes
did that.
off or somebody else. That is being creative. That is finding extra ice time for guys that you believe can be difference makers. That's not panic mode. That's going, hey, I can see something. I've got an offensive zone draw. Holmberg, you're off. Jornkrok, you're off. Nylander, Marner. I within that, all of a sudden, it's Matthews and Nylander on the ice. Or you don't have to switch the lines. Okay, line one we're switching it up. To me, it's everyone should feel comfortable for the most part in that top 6 playing with each other because they're pretty talented players. So I see other coaches mix and match and find an extra shift. It's not a sign of panic. What it is trying to be creative on that particular night, going, this guy's got a little extra juice. I got to find an extra shift for him. That's the only thing I would say. So I would agree with you in that standpoint. It's not a pushback.
That I think is kind of marrying the two in a way, because there's a difference between finding shifts during the game and before the game making the change,
right,
and committing to that change.
Yep.
And we've seen it with Verhaeghe with Maurice, he's moved him around a little bit in the series.
Moved Rodriguez up to the top line.
He's flipped them and put Verhaeghe down and I think in large part because Bennett and Tkachuk were really quiet for a couple of games there. And he's I'm going to try to get these guys going, move Verhaeghe down, flip them around.
Yeah.
Different look. It's one piece. But that's the thing. It's Verhaeghe is the piece moving. Rodriguez is the shrapnel in a way where it's okay, someone else got to play.
Go because
it's different with Nylander and Marner are so important, but also, unique and play a different style, that it's not as simple as, okay, Verhaeghe's the magic sauce that's going to get someone else going. I think there's just a different combination that he's dealing with here. And again, I do think it's important to consider the Knies role in all this. Now, Knies is probably going to play north-south and do what he's going to do anyway. And maybe he can play with anybody and it's going to be fine. But, you got to consider that because he's been so effective for them.
Yeah.
Who does Knies play best with?
Well, to be fair, they don't have another option, right? The only person who can play with Matthews on that left wing is him, right? There's not really another. He's been there all year. Who else would you even play?
Patrick, how is that? What you're doing is marrying the two. Then you're going Knies, Matthews, and then you slide Nylander
and just
and find
just
another.
See if you can get a different look going. See if that something changes. But you look in the series, you point out some of the matchup stuff. The Matthews line has won their minutes. goals wise, they're outscoring the Panthers. The Pacioretty, Tavares, Nylander line, they're outscoring them. Like, there is reason for him to stick with it. Like, I don't think it's like you
it's
have
2-2.
to do it.
I mean, it's a 2-2.
And the matchup thing at home, I think, will matter. Like, suddenly you don't, like in Florida, suddenly Barkov was playing against Tavares and Nylander, and suddenly those guys are quiet. Well, you're in Toronto, now you can play Matthews against Barkov, and like maybe that opens up something for Nylander. You know what I mean? Like, the home ice thing will matter, and obviously they have 2 home games potentially to win the series.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, Berube seems to be the kind of guy, though, that will also believe in the philosophy of going to your best players and just challenging them and saying, you guys, I'm not getting you away from stuff.
Well,
go out there and win.
Nothing wrong
because there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with top
either.
players playing really well. Too.
Exactly.
That's the other thing.
And taking it upon
gets
themselves.
Lost in all of this is like, when you have success, a lot of times, yes, it is going to be a guy that is unsuspecting, like you say. But for the most part, the laws of average, it's like, why did you get through? It's because of those players, that guy, that guy. Like you see it all over the league, and not just hockey, every sport. It's not just, it's not like in hockey, it's not a fourth line that dragged the team through a series.
No, you're always asking your best
for
players.
you. It might have, but it's your best players that have to play better.
Well, and that's, I think, what you're driving at, Noodles, which is something I'd like to see. I don't know if it will happen, but in order to get the bottom 6 bolstered, that's, finding a shift with Matthews on the 4th line or Marner on the 4th line or Nylander on the 4th line or 3rd line or whatever would seemingly make sense. But there's been so many penalties as well. They're spending a lot of time, shorthanded on the power play. Like the other night, the first period, Matthews and Marner played a lot, but they're killing penalties.
Hard to get into a rhythm.
Yeah,
It's
like
hard
5
to
on
get
5,
into
you're
a
just
rhythm.
not going to find the minutes because
you're
you can't play every single shift.
And you're defending, and you're in a mindset to try and kill that penalty. You're not in a mindset to get your offensive game going. So yeah, like the rhythm did get jarred last game because of 4 penalties in the first period. Because you just can't. Guys get cold on the bench. They lose. You lose. Willie doesn't.
He doesn't play, so he doesn't play the whole period.
You're just sitting there. And so it's stuff like that to get into a rhythm. And starts are critical. There's so many things. The goaltender, Stolarz is skating, but I don't believe, it's Joseph Wall's net right now.
Yeah,
See what happens.
it has to be. Tomorrow night for sure.
Yep.
We got Confirm or Deny coming up. We'll get into that topic, though, and Confirm or Deny. We've got Bruce Boudreau will join us today. We got Keegan Matheson, the author himself.
Yes.
We got access to his new book, which is coming out in early June. Keegan will join us from the park. The Jays are back home, coming off an off day yesterday. They got the Rays in town tonight. They got the Tigers, the Red Hot Tigers, in town on the weekend. So we'll catch up with Keegan, and we've got an update on Max Scherzer. And it's not a positive one.
No.
Yeah, there's another little setback for Max. But we'll tell you about that a little bit later this afternoon. Jonas Siegel in here. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Boston trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Oh, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, so we got a bundle of confirm and denies here, but I'm just seeing some breaking news online. Don Von Natta Jr. of ESPN is reporting that Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other players have been reinstated by Major League Baseball.
Wow.
Which,
Well, they're like all not alive.
well, I know that, but that's like Pete Rose just passed away.
It's
Shoeless
so
Joe
gutless
Jackson,
to do
that was in 1918 or
I know.
whatever. He's been gone for a long time, but why couldn't you do this 10 years ago? Like, you had to wait until Pete passed away. It seems so clear. They were just waiting for him to die, and then they're like, all right, we'll let you back in the club. And now what? He's going to be in Cooperstown?
Yes, he'll make
That's
it.
probably what's coming now.
Yes, he's going to go to Cooperstown, which is, he belongs there. Yes, he better.
4,000 hits this guy had. Now, the
Who did he
gambling
run-
stuff.
Who did he run in the All-Star game? Was it?
It was Gary Carter, I think. He blew up Gary Carter, man. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Gary
They didn't
Carter.
change the rule because of that hit. There was one catcher got blown up and it blew both his knees out, and I think they changed the rule after that. I can't remember. I was talking to somebody about it the other day,
Well,
'Cause, you know,
Buster Posey had a really bad injury and really bad collision at the plate.
That's maybe what it was.
Yeah, and I think it was Posey where because this was only 12, 13 years ago where they said, like, we got to.
No more running the catcher.
For 100 years, man. I remember growing up playing baseball, it was like, dude, if that guy's in your way, you bury that guy. You'd be 11, 12 years old. You'd be trying to destroy catchers.
I was in a celebrity charity baseball game in what's the park in New York City?
Central Park?
Central Park.
Yes.
And I ran the guy from Young and Restless. He was the catcher.
Get out of the way.
What was
it was like
the reaction?
George and
not happy.
Who was it? Bette
Midler.
Who was it? Bette Midler.
Yeah, Bette Midler.
Costanza
It was
blew
Central
up.
Park, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't be happy if you got blown up.
Well, I
at
was
home
in my
plate for
way,
a
and I
charity
was trying to
game.
be a hero. Like,
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're playing by the rules.
yeah.
What was the guy's name, Doogie?
Boss.
Ray Fosse? Is that what it was? Ray Fosse. Is that a cologne you wear, Doogie, or
I
what?
have no idea what he's talking about.
Doogie is speaking gibberish back there. But, yeah, these guys, they've been reinstated, which, again, I'm not sure what that means. I'm curious what the Rose family is going to say about that. I don't know what the shoeless family thinks.
Yeah.
You know, like that guy, like the White Sox, the Black Sox, literally threw the World Series.
Yes.
That is so extreme.
So you get a 100-year penalty, and then
Yeah.
you're okay.
Like that one I totally understood where they're
Yes.
like, we can't be affiliated with
They
you guys.
fixed the game, like,
yes.
literally.
Like I believe it was Arnold Rothstein, I believe, that like literally fixed the World Series. Pete Rose, do I believe he bet on the Reds? Yes, I do
Yes,
believe. And, you know, do I think there's a chance he had his fifth starter out there and he put a little scratch on the opponent? I think it's possible. I've always thought it was possible.
But he also fell asleep on a panel.
And he
when
also
it was-
fell asleep on a panel. But,
asleep.
yeah, I guess, you know, bygones will be bygones.
Yeah.
All right, confirm or deny. Let's get this party started.
Yeah.
Confirm or deny, the Florida Panthers cannot win this series without Matthew Tkachuk playing a bigger role in the final few games.
I'm going to deny it because he hasn't really had a big role so far,
Mm-hmm.
and they won the last couple games. I think it's more the goalie. If he said Bobrovsky's just average or something, I think the goalie is more important than, you know, Tkachuk. Tkachuk had a nice assist, but they caught the penalty killers tired
Yeah.
off a 5-on-3.
That was a great pass.
It was a beautiful pass. McCabe was a little late on it. You could see his reaction on the play, but I think they were trying to sort it out because whoever came out of the box was really sprinting down on the play.
Was that Nyes
I think
that
it was
came out?
Nyes that went right to the puck, and I think they were trying to sort it out after that. And Tkachuk just zipped its seam. If you look at the one angle, McCabe puts a stick there. He misses it by 2 inches
yeah.
for the deflection.
Yeah.
But, you know, ultimately, I'm more on the deny. I think the Panthers know what Tkachuk is at right now. I don't think he's at 100%. He's trying his best, but I think they feel that he can do it without him.
I think it's 100% deny. I want to meld the two games. That's my idea for this.
Okay. You want to half Jerry, half deny? Jerry deny?
I like to bring in my own rules.
Jerry deny. Okay.
I just think they have so many different contributors. Like you look in the series, like you mentioned that third line. Like I was talking to Ray after game 1, maybe, and he was like, that Lundell, and he's right. Like he's going to be a star. And like you think of how they're set up, like Bennett's a free agent. Bennett maybe leaves, maybe doesn't, but like Lundell will just like step in, play more minutes. Yeah. Marchand's had a great series. That Luosterainen's been like kind of all over the place and involved.
Yeah.
You mentioned Verhaeghe, like he hasn't gotten maybe super going yet. He can score. Like they just have so many different guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I would deny this, but I will. I think I would. I think I would confirm it if it was to win a Stanley Cup. Like to me, I just feel like when you look at what happened 2 years ago, when he got hurt, ran out of steam in the Cup final, that really fizzled their team out.
He's a top-tier player.
He's a great player that just isn't playing at that level, and I don't think he's capable of playing at that level. And I just don't know if maybe get through the Leafs, maybe. I don't know if you can get through 2 more series without him contributing more than he has so far.
See, I was thinking the same thing, actually. Different players, obviously different roles, but with Matthews, it's like, could they win this series if he doesn't score? Yeah, for sure they could. Can they win a cup, like if he's just not scoring
He's
regularly?
on pace for 3 goals throughout the run?
Probably not.
Probably not, but that's what you do is go, okay, we made it through. Like now you got What you do is you give yourself more opportunity.
For sure.
That's what it is.
That's it, man.
That's,
keep
like
getting through and play, and your team gives you more time.
Right. Ask Connor Hellebuck, Game 7, right? He gets an opportunity. Now, they might be in one. Looks like Heiskanen's back. But,
Heiskanen is back, I believe, tonight, yes.
Yeah, so
That's a
anyway.
must-win for Winnipeg.
Well, it
We'll
is.
get to that in a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Go ahead.
All right, how about this? Confirm or deny, Austin Matthews needs multiple goals in this series to avoid taking serious heat.
To avoid taking serious.
Can I go first?
Yes.
You can go.
Deny, depending on the outcome of the series.
Yep. If they win, everyone's happy anyway.
He can get a zero
That's
spot,
valid.
and they win in 6 or 7. Doesn't matter. Then we're having the conversation. Geez, you're going to need him in the next round.
Yep.
If he gets a 0 spot or not multiple goals and they lose, now heat.
Yes.
So I'm a deny on that.
Yeah.
I also would deny it because he could score, maybe he scores 1 goal and it's the Game 6 series clinching goal and that's it and that's over.
Mm-hmm.
And like the conversation around him is so interesting because it's like, it is true. He does do a lot of really good things that aren't scoring. Like defensively,
Right.
he's really good. He kills penalty. Like it's cool. He's not the highest paid player in the league because of all that stuff. He's the highest paid player in the league because he scores.
Right.
Like they need him to score now or later, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's also just what he is capable of doing that no one else is capable of doing at that level. And again, there's no salary cap in the playoffs, so I don't really I don't think it's as much about the money as it's simply about what is to be expected and what you have to do to help your team.
Right.
You're the.
But that's what I mean. Like I'm not. That's what I mean. Like
No, I understand.
he
that
got
that's
the
why he
contract.
got paid,
Like that's
of course.
where that's what we talk about. He had
Yes.
69 goals last year. I guess the question that like I would raise to that is he capable in like whatever condition he's in physically of being what you're talking about? Because
Well,
like
I
it
would
hasn't
have
been
it-
that way the whole year.
But I would have a different viewpoint on that if in previous playoffs the guy was scoring at
Fair.
a ridiculous rate. He's never done it in his playoff career,
That's
and
that's
this is
kinda
year
what-
9. He's not a kid.
That's
like
kinda where I
Austin's
was-
not a kid.
I
He's
think
a
there
big
was
boy.
One year he had 5 goals.
He did. It's 18-19. He had 7 games, 5 goals, 1 assist, 6 points.
Yeah.
That was against the Bruins. They lost in 7. And he had that, he had a big series against Tampa a couple of years ago where he scored a couple of big goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he hasn't scored goals. He's scored goals. It's that during the regular season over the last 9 years, he scored more goals than anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's not even particularly close.
No.
And you look at him, and that's the point, is that come playoff time, yes, it becomes more difficult. I could accept, a percentage drop.
Right.
You drop 20% in the playoffs, just that much more difficult.
Right.
But it's a significant one. Like, again, he's got 3 goals in his last 20 playoff games. That's a 12-goal pace.
Right.
That's
Well,
a drop of how much? I mean,
60%.
yeah, it's massive.
Well, in his career in the regular season, 0.64 goals per game in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, it's 0.38.
Yeah. So
That's
it's in half.
50%.
It's cut in half.
Yeah.
Again, I'll give you 20%, 25%, but it can't be cut in half.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is that he's got to find a way to prove that he can be a playoff goal scorer.
I think you make a good point. It doesn't have to be multiple goals. It just has to be the timing of something.
Sure.
If he delivers a big goal at the right time. It's like I'd say it all the time. Starting goaltenders, they're not going to be perfect. But if you make that save at the right time, that's what the team needs. And I think top players deliver at the time when the team needs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, what people are going, let's see what he...
Well, and look at Nylander. Like, that's kind of what he's been building, where it's like a big moment, you kind of think he'll be the one to score or he'll be the one to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the Leaf scale of things,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Like Aaron Judge doesn't get to the playoffs, and they say, hey, just lay down a sack bunt every once in a while.
Well, remember how much heat he took last year?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he wasn't hitting home runs.
Right,
He wasn't
yeah.
slugging.
Right.
Like, if you're Aaron Judge, you get to the playoffs, you got to hit home runs.
Yes.
And big home runs.
And
Can't
then-
hit singles and say, hey, I'm all good. Like, that's great. Hit a couple singles, get on base, play defensively strong. Awesome. You got to hit home runs.
It was Forrest Gump that was knocking him out of the park there. Who's the other guy? Giancarlo.
Juan Soto. Oh, Giancarlo Stanton. You're right.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
mashing. He always does in the
He couldn't
playoffs.
get to first base, but he was...
Forrest Gump.
He mashes home
Remember?
runs.
Like, he could not run to first base.
And he's out the
Didn't
whole
he?
year, basically.
But he's got great playoff stats.
But didn't Alejandro Kirk, they did the stats of speed to first base, and Kirk was faster than Forrest.
Yes, I'm not
Then
surprised
Stanton.
by that. Stanton is because Kirk gets moving. He's not moving fast, but Stanton is so big
Yes.
and so it's not,
He's got
it's not that
wooden
he's
legs,
uncoordinated,
like-
but yeah, he
No, but he
he
looks
can't
like
move.
the Rock. Like he's like just like a tower.
Yeah, he needs some oil. Like it's just there's no movement there.
The Tin Man running to first base.
Confirm and deny. Anthony Stolar should start as soon as he's medically cleared.
Deny. And I think you got to be careful with what's going on. There are a number of steps you have to get past before you can return. So this is just one.
But that's what we're assuming here. Medically cleared.
But like you can't assume that every step he takes, he's not going to have symptoms. I guess would be my only thing.
Well, the only thing, like, he looks good in practice and all that.
Well, it wasn't even practice.
Take a slap shot off the face or take a bump in the
Right.
crease. Like
Yeah.
that's what you're avoiding to happen again, where he has not a relapse, another situation. We're calling it a concussion,
It's
right?
yeah, you can.
I mean,
yes.
it's an upper body. I don't want
It's a
to
concussion.
speak out of turn, but
They can correct the record if they want.
right. But another concussion, you have to be mindful of it. You just don't go, hey, it's a week and all of that, because there's contact, there's incidental contact, all of that. He has to be comfortable with it for himself. The doctors have to be comfortable with it. You're right. It's a step. I'm going to deny it, though, because we don't know how the series are going. We don't know how Wool is playing.
But like, let's play it out. So like, let's say they advance, right? Wool obviously would play well enough to get through, right?
yeah.
So let's say it's the conference finals and it's like game 2 and Stolars is back practicing. He feels great. He's ready to go. They're not starting him, right?
I don't know. They
He's
might.
not. He's not. I'm trying to think of a goalie. Like
He's
I
not
was
a
going to say,
65,
Hellbauer.
he's not a
Vessel-
65.
You know what I
Vessel
mean? Like
starter.
he doesn't have.
He played less than Wool this year.
Yeah.
like
he actually
you're-
played less
You're
games
sticking
than
with
Wool.
Wall,
But he also
And-
earned it down the stretch.
100%.
And earned it in the playoffs.
And you shouldn't lose your job for an injury, but in the end,
It's a big boy sport. I get
exactly.
it. No
And-
guarantees.
you know, that's.
But then if Wall struggles in
I
game
think
2 of the
that's
conference
where-
finals, then it's like, oh, then game 3.
That's
it's
where
like,
you
who
go.
should
I'm
start?
denying it because I'm looking at the scenario of what does the team look like? You know, how is he playing? Where are you at? That's the biggest thing. Not, you know, hey, the minute he's medically cleared. This isn't a guy that you can just slide in and go, hey, let's put him on the fourth line and give
Play
him
him 10 minutes?
12 minutes. You're either in or you're out. So I'm denying it until, you know, it's Wool's net until he falters, or, you know, there's a combination of two. I mean, Stuart Skinner got his net back because of an injury.
Yeah. And then he looked
Right?
great last night.
Well, you gotta-
Wasn't tested a ton, but
No, but
still
he-
did his job.
Well, good for him. I
I
felt some nerves for him.
I thought the
yesterday.
Oilers were unbelievable last night. Like, that was a clinic.
That's the best game they've
They're
played,
in
I think, a
full
while.
control, man. They never looked like they were ever losing that game last night.
That Evander Kane's a problem.
It's
for
a
people.
big addition to your lineup, man. When he's throwing hits and picking, you know, and scoring last night,
running over the goaltender.
yeah,
just
he's tough as nails, and everyone knows it. Like, everyone on Vegas knows, like, he's
Yeah.
more than willing to stand up for himself. Bruce Boudreau coming up. We'll get into the draft lottery last night.
Oh, the Raptors.
I don't even know.
dropped.
Of course, the Raptors are picking ninth. Like, after that season, they dropped 2 spots and they're picking
The
ninth.
look on Masai's face. when they
Oh,
announced it,
sickening,
it's
man.
like, oh.
But that wasn't the worst, because there were other ones that I think had it even worse. And we've got some updates and breaking news on the status of Jason Tatum after what happened last night. We'll tell you about that next.
I need you to hold on.
All right, so Bizarro World, the Knicks beating the Celtics at the Garden last night. They're up 3-1 in that series, and Jason Tatum left the game with what looked like a gruesome injury. We know it is now. He has undergone successful surgery to repair a ruptured right Achilles tendon. So that's it for like at least 12 months, I would think, for Tatum.
Awful.
That's it for the Celtics, I would think. But, you know, maybe they win the draft lottery next year. Right? You get Tatum goes down, and the league is like, you know, we got to cook something up for the Boston Celtics. That's a big market for us.
Yeah.
How about the Dallas Mavericks winning the lottery last night? And what I found to be one of the more tone-deaf performances of all time was Mark Tatum, the deputy commissioner. He was so happy when he flipped that board over, and nobody else was happy. Like,
Yeah.
look at, he's, 76ers. That means that Dallas, and everyone was so angry that Dallas won that thing last night, outside of Nico Harrison and Mavs
Yes.
fans. But he, like, I get it. You got to be, you know, it's for performance and it's entertainment, but nobody's happy, dude.
No.
Like, just be miserable and turn over and then flip the thing and go,
Well,
fine,
this-
the Mavs win, Cooper flag.
How
go
about the
ahead.
range of emotions this Nico Harrison? We got to get into it.
Oh, I know. Now the guy's the happiest guy in the world.
It's
Because now
crazy.
he thinks he's a genius.
Yes, crazy.
Traded Luka, semi-tanked, and now you get Cooper flag. It's so unjustified. It's so unjust.
Crazy.
More on that into the next hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.